right, so I'm excited about today's guest. His name is Austin Green. I think I'm most excited about having Austin on the podcast because he is a data-driven leader, which, Mary, as you and I know, we rarely get to interact with sales data-driven outside sales leaders. Far too commonly, we're just relationship guys, or just get out there and be in front of the customer. So Austin gets it that head sheets and spreadsheets are not scalable, and it leads to revenue loss. So, Austin, I know that you know I'm a big fan. Thank you for coming to join us, and excited to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah, appreciate that, JT. Thank you.
Yeah, I think everybody knows if you have any conversations with me for very long about outside sales, inevitably Joe McDonald comes up of Jasper Engines. I'm excited to see how you lead this conversation with us as well, because I didn't introduce your title. Austin Green, RVP for Jasper Engines and Transmissions out of Arizona. So again, thanks for joining us, and we can dive in.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right.
Mary, you want to kick us off?
Yes, for sure. So Austin, super excited to have you here. Let's just start, warming everybody up. Like, tell us how you got into sales. These are always our favorite stories.
Yeah, so, we're an engine and transmission remanufacturer. My father ran a transmission shop in southern Indiana. Indiana's where Jasper's based out of, and I was just working the front counter at my dad's shop, and the local sales rep came in, and I was looking for a change, and he recommended, hey, Jasper's got a great sales training program. So I spent basically, I started in the phone sales, the inside sales for us. And, we kind of have like an intern program, which takes younger guys and, introduce them to not only our company, but also our sales process and all that. And so I spent about almost a year and a half up in Jasper, Indiana. And once I wrapped that up, I went out to be an outside sales rep in Atlanta, basically. So that was kind of my intro, getting into not only into sales, but also with Jasper Engines.
So your first role as a rep was in Atlanta?
Was Atlanta in Eastern Georgia. Was there for about 5 years. Then I moved up to North Carolina in your neck of the woods, JT. Was up there for about a year to kind of help the team up there. And then this opportunity came out west, and so now I cover from basically Texas and Oklahoma all the way west to LA in my role now.
Okay, so that's actually a good transition. Your role now, walk us through number of reps and what you're ultimately responsible for.
Yeah, so I have 9 branches that span the Southwest. Have 7 managers that lead those 9 branches, and have 28 reps, including the managers, because our managers all have a sales territory of their own. So 28 people across however many, 9 branches, 7, 8 states.
9 branches, 7, 8 states. Awesome. Mary, where do we want to go from right there?
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you're responsible for, Austin, as far as those 9 branches and 28 reps go. Are you responsible for all of them? Do you have middle managers right underneath you, and then the reps are underneath that? How does that process work?
Yeah. So we're a pretty flat organization. So Joe, as you mentioned, he's our vice president of sales. So that's who I report to. There's 5 regional managers. Then we have 50 branches, which is probably 40 or so reps at that level, or managers at that level, and then we have a rep. So really, it's a pretty flat organization. Not a lot of middle management tiers. So just like I said, for me, it's my 7 guys that report to me, and then they each have 2 to 5 reps under them, just depending on the branch size and area. So my kind of day to day is, I'm in the field with about half the month. I'm in the field with my reps. And that could be, a brand new rep, helping them learn the process. That could be with the manager, working on some, how they can help their younger reps, younger in tenure reps. And, So that's kind of my day to day is half the time in the field, working directly, with the reps or the managers, calling on shops or working on where we need to take the branch going forward, and then the other half is working with products like your guys's, helping to coach that, put that the analytical side of MMC and the other products that we use. So that's kind of my day to day is split 50-50 between actually doing the sales job, which is kind of the more fun part of the job, interacting with customers, and then being stuck behind a desk and answering phone calls and emails.
So let's dive into the ride along scenario.
Yeah.
And I would say in my experience and in my conversations lately, there's a trend of sales leadership at the VP level where they're not actively doing nearly the frequency of ride alongs that they used to. So how do you determine who you're going to ride with and when? Let's start there.
So who I ride with and when. So, like I said, I have 9 branches. So I kind of hit each of those branches once a quarter. So that kind of makes it easy for me. 3 branches a month. That's kind of my, I have some larger branches that I'm not able to hit all the reps in that branch when I come to town. We definitely, all of our branch managers have their own sales territory, and we've done that for a reason. If your manager's telling you, hey, do X, Y, Z, and you're saying, but boss, you don't, it's different now. You don't know, you don't understand. Our branch managers are actually doing the same job they're doing. Not that, they're not full time because they're also the manager, but most of their job is doing the same job as their reps. And then the same thing at my level. I want to make sure I'm not, harping on them. Hey, back in my day, this is what worked. No, I'm in the field, not as much as they are, but 10 to 12 days a month, I'm right there with them.
So I love that. And honestly, I feel like we need to level set with the listeners right now because process at Jasper is a well-oiled machine. So, and the funny thing is what I didn't know is that you had a process of the 9 branches and visiting 3 a month, which should come to no surprise for me. I don't know why I was surprised with that. Will you, at a high level, if I say 12, 6, and 4, will you define what that is, that process is for the listeners and how you approach the accounts?
Yeah. So the way a standard rep goes into the field, we want them to thoroughly canvass their territory. I don't want them to look at the book of business and start calling on that book of business immediately. There's a reason the rep before them isn't there, right? If they were doing such a great job, they probably wouldn't be an open territory. So, we don't give them that book of business up front and say, hey, call on these, 200 customers because they're doing business with us. And quite frankly, a customer that's doing, getting 1 or 2 engines or transmissions from us a month knows a heck of a lot more about our product and our processes than a 1 or 2 month sales rep in the field, right? So our process all drives from thoroughly canvassing their territory. We give, depending on the area, we tend to do it around a set population. Now that there's flux in there, obviously, but so back in North Carolina, the territories are much smaller. We have more concentrated population. I mean, for me, New Mexico, I have 1 rep that covers darn near the whole state, right? So it's a tough. There is no set sales rep. There is no set territory for us. But the main thing we want them to do is knock on every door that's got a bay door that looks like they work on vehicles. Whether that's a garage owned by Joe's Automotive, or whether that's a corporate franchise, or whether that's a fleet that somebody's running 200 or 2,000 vehicles, and they may or may not do their repairs in house. So we just want them to thoroughly canvass their territory, and what that's going to do is them gauge the potential of each of these customers. And so getting back to the 12, 6, and 4, Essentially, that's a fancy way to say how often do you want to see this customer? Is it once 12 times a year, which is where the 12 comes from, the 6 every other month, 6 times a year, or 4, which is, quarterly. And so we achieve that by, again, the canvassing, thoroughly qualifying these customers. And we're not always told the truth, right? Customer may tell you, no, I don't do any engines, but you see, there's things we look for in shops that, we know when that kind of work is being done and when it's not. And that's, again, something new reps just have to grow into and learn. Um, but yeah, essentially, I want a new rep in this company to determine who they're calling on, not look at, hey, the last rep called on these people, so I'm going to too. That's not a good recipe for growing your business going forward.
One of the things that I always appreciated with my conversations with Joe and learning the Jasper way, you guys hire very tough. You hire very, very specifically to not only skill sets, but culture. So, and I say that I don't think we need to dive in deep there. So you're hiring for the right team member, but I love the Jasper way and like the long game. So what you didn't say is we use the data to drive the fastest amount of revenue for the rep right out of the gate. No, you're making a new rep canvas the entire territory and re-qualify accounts because the prior rep was not successful for one reason or another.
Yep.
And I just like the long game in qualifying that.
So again, the high volume customers that we have, the existing customers, we've been in business for, this is our 81st going on 82nd year. So most people in the automotive industry know who we are. So it's not, we're not launching a new product. We do launch new products, but we're not unknown to the industry. And so most of these customers, whether they have, my phone number from, me reaching out to them, years prior, or the manager of that branch. So that's why the brand new rep, we're just not going to say, hey, call on these shops or these fleets. So I want them to make their own decision. And then they also have more buy-in. They have a reason for calling on that customer. Hey, they're doing 2 engines a month. I got great potential here. Now, whether they're buying that from us or elsewhere, that's for them to determine and for them to help change those habits.
Yeah, let me dive in slightly with the 12 sixes and 4s and give me a ballpark again number of accounts that a Jasper OSR might be responsible for.
So we have 200 main customers that we're calling on. That our 12s and 6s, the every month, every other month. It's kind of our main book of business. And then we have around 300 or so of those 4s, and those aren't all touched by a rep stopping in there. Some of that's an email blast, calling. So that's those. We treat those a little different because they're more either up and coming customers or hey, they haven't bought in a while, but it's good to keep a pulse on them. But there's 200 customers that we're is our main book of business and where we're trying to drive the most revenue. And then as far as the 12s, one thing MMC's been great for us is you guys do have the cadence, right? So we set our cadences. We basically set up 2 different groups. In the 12s, the cadence is every 30 days, and the 6s, it's actually a little less than that because of how the weeks fall. But essentially, it's every 30 days those come back up in front of my reps. They're not having to decide who do I call on this week? No, it's bingo. Here we go. It pops up right in front of them. They hit pins over cadence, and they're not making that decision every month, which has really made it, makes it easier from a manager's perspective. Hey, you're supposed to hit 25 of those 112s this week, but you only hit 13. What's going on? So that's where we can use what the tools that we have and what some of the data that we're able to get from MMC, and I can see if one thing that I really like is the pin, like the days over cadence, and so it's kind of eye opening. We have some really good reps and you look at the frequency 12s, the ones they want to see every month that haven't been seen in you know over 100 days, and we have some that you look at and you go, hey Jim, you've not been in there in 320 days. you, 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 you claim there's potential there, right? So why are you not visiting this customer?
No.
So that's what's been really nice about using your guys' tools there on the cadences.
Look, I want to quantify this even deeper for the sales leaders listening. We run into all the time of sales leaders saying, it's Big Brother. We want to let them kind of own their own book of business and figure out where they should go and who they should see. I love the Jasper way because it's not about Big Brother. It's about, this is Novocaine. Give it time. It's going to work every time. So, like the 12s, I don't know whether the listeners caught this earlier. Each rep might have between 200 and 300 accounts that they should see every month or every other month. And so the Jasper way is, remind me the numbers again. Is it 13 good calls a day? Is that the expectation?
That is the expectation, yes.
Okay, so 13 good calls. The process is a good call is quantified as
basically you're in front of a decision maker, so it's not I walked in, and the gatekeeper said, nope, Susie's not in today, sorry. That's you went there, great, but you didn't talk to a decision maker, so that's not a good call. And the way we do it in your guys' system is, we got meetings or visits, and so we kind of quantify that as a visit is, you were there, hey, cool. You may have gotten a contact. I mean, so you still can get some information there, right? But so a typical day is probably going to be, 14 to 15 visits in total, with 12 to 13 of those being, good calls or meetings for us. It's kind of where most of our reps fall.
Yeah, reason I put such an emphasis on that is, Austin, you probably know this, but we deal with a lot of sales leaders that are like, our reps struggle to do 4 or 5 visits a day. I did a ride along literally yesterday with a company that serves car dealerships. There's like 60,000 car dealerships in the United States alone. This one particular rep has a set account base of 79 only in North Carolina. And they have this poor outside sales rep visiting the same 79, regardless of whether they're a good fit or not, when they're just driving by all of these other potential accounts, because they think 4 or 5 visits a day is a lot, when this particular rep is inside of a car dealership for 5 minutes at a time. So, outside sales leader, moral of the story, you're hiring outside sales reps to educate, build relationships, nurture relationships, and be the customer engagement arm of your company. Get them in front of the customers. Is the fruit.
You said a 5-minute meeting. If he was having 2-hour scheduled appointments, okay, fine. Yeah, 4 may be the right number. But for most of our reps, it's probably 1 or 2 appointments a day, and the rest are just not cold call. I mean, some of them could be cold calls, but visiting existing customers or people they've been in before. And so most of ours are drop-ins, right? We're expecting to get 10 to 20 minutes of an owner or a service manager or a fleet manager's time. And so that's where the frequency and the cadence that we have our reps on. If you average, 15 minutes a stop, you should be making more than 4 calls a day. I'm sorry.
Agreed. Agreed. One last thing, and then Mary, I'll hand it to you for some additional questions. I need to make this fully clear to those listening. This is not ground and pound without strategy. So not only does Jasper go after the volume of customer engagement each day, but you guys have call plans that you hold the OSRs responsible for. It's not just going in there and winging it with Joe, the owner. It's going in, I'm speaking specifically to Joe about this. So can you speak to the call plan aspect?
I mean, essentially, if I knocked on your door, let's say you ran JT's Automotive, right? So I walk in, I'm like, hey JT, how you doing? We sell engines and transmissions. Here's a pamphlet. I'll see you next month. And the next month I come in, hey JT, how you doing? You called me on one or two. What happened? Okay, here's another flyer. This is what's on sale. I'll see you next month. You'll see me for a couple times, right? But once I'm in there 6, 8, 12 times, and all I say is, how you doing? Here's a flyer. What I mean, all right, see you later, man. You become the professional visitor. So we want to make sure that our reps are bringing value. We do that by asking good questions. What's important to the customer? A customer would tell you how to sell to them. And I don't know if we're going to get into this, but one thing I look for in a potential new hire is, are they inquisitive? You know, do they ask? We you mentioned how hard we are to hire. We actually make reps, potential new hires, spend a day in the field with our rep, and I mean it's a 9-hour day, unpaid. So I mean we are demanding, but what we're looking for there is, do they like the job? Do they know the job? I mean that's a big. I mean they could think they want to do outside sales, but why spend the money hiring them, training them if they don't even like the job? So that's step number one. But one thing I'm always looking for and asking my managers when they're doing these ride-alongs is, was the customer asking good questions, both of the the person you were calling on, were they engaged at all with that customer, but also were they asking good questions to the manager doing the ride-along,
Yeah.
because a customer will tell you how to sell to them. It's, hey, what are you looking for in a vendor? And then you model the next time you come in with information, going back to the call plan, you're bringing what's important to that customer. If I said, hey JT, how you doing? Are you doing engines here? And you tell me, sometimes. I don't quantify how many that is. I don't know what you're looking for in a vendor. If I just keep coming in and saying, hey, we have engines, hey, we have engines, hey, we have engines, but I don't realize to you price is most important, or delivery is most important, or I don't know the answer, because I haven't asked those questions. So that's where the call plan, we're able to. It's not a script per se, but it's the bare bones. Hey, make sure you accomplish these 3 or 4 things. Ask these couple of questions to get the information you need, um, and then have a conversation around that. But that's the plan you want to go in with, to make sure you're bringing value to the customer, bringing them relevant information, and so that they open the door next time you you come in.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've got way more, Mary, but do you want to add anything that I'm missing right there?
No, I think I would just take it in a different direction. So do you want to take it in a different, or can I ask a follow
Let
up?
me add just a couple of more. Like, one of the things that I love is, and you're talking about just dropping off a brochure. And I think I've heard Joe speak to this several times. Like, it's any schlub of a rep can just go and pick up a dozen donuts and drop it off at the shop and think, oh man, I won their heart over by winning over their belly, right? Um, I think that not only does Jasper put an emphasis on, but you guys measure it. How many actual meals am I getting an owner out of their shop to the local Mexican restaurant or whatever it is, where I've got one-on-one time, not only relationship building, but where I can ask those direct questions to learn more about how Jasper can better serve that specific customer.
Yeah. So tenure with the company, we have different goals and expectations for different level of tenure. So a brand new rep, sure, if you want to bring in, donuts, breakfast sandwiches, a pizza, I mean, those are all great things, right? Um, but once you've been with us for a while, once you have those relationships with the customers, yeah, I mean, getting a most of the customers we call on, they're running a shop, they're running a small business. It's a stressful time right now. They're all slammed. So getting them out of their shop, or getting that service, not only the owner but service manager out of that shop. The phone's not ringing. They don't have that. grade 8 stress level, they're able to drop their guard a little bit, tell you about the kids, tell you about what, their summer vacation, tell you about the personal, you kind of really get that personal feel when you take a customer out to lunch. So to answer your question, our one thing we're pushing our reps for this year, and one thing we're measuring this year is 3 lunches a week. Now, depending on that could be, for a new rep, maybe a breakfast with some breakfast, some McMuffins,
Yep.
or, you come in and, a pizza, and maybe get one person out to lunch. For a more experienced rep, that may be all three out to lunch. So it just, we have that goal of three, but depending on that's, where the management piece comes in, hey, this rep I expect XYZ, this rep I expect, more or less depending on where they are with us.
That leads me to coaching. That's actually a good transition. And then Mary, after this, I'll go to you.
He's been telling you he'll go to you for a while.
I have.
Yeah,
It's like an
I
empty
noticed
promise.
that too, Austin.
I think it's an empty promise right now. I'm really sorry. One of the things that you
Real quick, $5 on. He asked another question after this.
Oh yeah, for sure. There will
well,
be a
if there's
follow-up.
money on the line, I'm definitely not going to. I'm going to win that $5. One of the things that you are known for, Austin, is your thoughtful approach to actually coaching the reps as well. And I think the scenario that came up, and what made me think of this is not all reps fall into this cookie cutter box, which is the way that you just described that. Like the new rep has these expectations, a tenured rep has these expectations.
Yep.
And one of the stories that I really like is you having the ability to see what did JT the rep speak with to Eddie Wilson at Wilson Automotive. And I think you are providing direct feedback of like direct questions, get direct answers. And you were leveraging Matt, my customers, to be able to easily see what did JT speak to Eddie about? What did they cover? What I did or did not uncover in that meeting. And before I let you speak to that, I compare it to, so many outside sales teams out there that operate with notebooks. They operate with the daily recap email of who I spoke with and who did I visit. Maybe you've got a Google Sheet. Maybe it's just a phone call with my manager on my way home before I pull in the driveway. And none of that is scalable. So speak to the direct questions, get direct answers, and how you coach your team from the data.
So we used to, we had an in-house CRM for years that worked great, but due to some technical limitations, that's why we came to MMC. And so what we used to do, and when we first rolled out MMC, is we do what we call 10 calls. And so from my level, again, with the, trying to hit all my reps every quarter in person, but I also just take a day, throw darts, what do I see? So I review 10 calls for each rep once a quarter. And when we used to do this, hey, Jim, I was looking at, March 15th, blah, 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 have a couple questions. And then I wrote my notes on a spreadsheet that the rep never saw. The rep never, they may or may not remember, what I spoke to them about. And again, it's once every 3 months. And so, how effective is it? I mean, it was good to have those conversations, but, the next time they went into that shop, which could have been a month, 2 months, 3 months later, they're not going to remember what I said, right? And so one thing that we've really enjoyed about MMC is you can have some customizable activities. And so we have an activity called coaching tips. And what that allows us to do is do the exact same process we were doing before with our 10 calls. But instead, next time Jim walks into that account, because we put that activity on that actual account, it's the first note they see because it's the most recent note. And if I said, hey, next time get this guy signed up for XYZ program, or hey, why don't they purchase installation kits, or whatever the case may be, I can put those coaching tips directly on that account, staring them in the face the next time they walk in there. So that's, I don't know if that answered the question, but that's how we, one way we utilize those coaching tips.
It did answer the question, and I am not allowed to ask another question, right? So thank you.
No, this is awesome. Like, Austin, this has been such a great conversation. One of the things I also love and respect about Jasper is like you guys are not bound by a lot of technology. Like you guys don't force a lot of technology or software onto your reps. You guys pretty much just use Map My Customers and Big Tin Can, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, we had an old in-house system that had our media, had our CRM all kind of built into one, and so now we rely on two different technologies there. But yeah, Big Tin Cans are our media piece, and yeah, those are the two main technologies we leverage.
Well, for the listening audience, share what you do with them. They're an awesome company. It's a great piece of technology. Will you share that? It's
Yeah, yeah,
valuable. You need to look at it.
yeah. So one of the, we measure things like how many calls they made, how many lunches. Those are two of the things we measure. But the other thing we want our reps doing is sharing a presentation with around half the shops they visited that day. So it's not something we want every single time, but we want to make sure they're conveying the value of Jasper, our value proposition, and all that. And so we used to use, like I said, we would send the media to the rep, and then they'd have to download it, and then it was in PowerPoint. And then 5 years later, they're still using a presentation that we've changed, 10 processes since then. And, they're telling a customer we're still using XYZ part when we're not. And that can lead to obviously some frustrations and some issues. But we didn't have any better solution there. So Big Tin Can, they've been awesome. And basically everything's hosted within their app. It's on the device, so there's no downloading speed, which is one of the big selling points to us. But if Jason's our marketing director, when he updates that piece of literature, content, PowerPoint, video, the next time they get on Wi-Fi, it's updated on their device. So we're able to keep relevant information in their hands without them having to sync anything. And then the other piece that was the main piece that we got from them. But the second piece that we weren't expecting is we can share the content with a prospective customer, and then we get real time data on, did they open it? How long did they look at it? Did they forward it? I had a great example with one of my reps in Texas last week where he saw that the garage emailed the presentation to an end user and said, "Hey, Miss So and So, this is why we use take a look at this presentation. This is why we only recommend Jasper when doing a transmission
awesome.
replacement." And
So when you say end user, that's like the JT Rimby family for my Camry when I need the new transmission.
If you're at Wilson's garage, yes. So Wilson emailed it to you, say,
Yep.
and so we saw all that in real time, and then we got the sale. So that was, I mean, yeah, they've been a great addition as well.
I love that
awesome.
story. I love that story. I mean, that should be incentive enough for all the other reps to start leveraging that and say, look, we encourage you to send it to your end customer to give them confidence of the Jasper engine coming into their Ford.
So the same way we use the MMC data, basically we're using similar stuff on their side. So I took the reps who had we can see what percentage of the people they sent it to open the email. And so then we had training based on that. Hey guys, you're the top 3 reps using this product with the most success. What are the best practices?
I love it.
And so they did that a couple weeks ago, and shared best practices with the whole company. So that's just another way we're using some analytics from anywhere we can get them.
Nice. That's awesome. Okay, so you guys have evolved quite a bit. You guys are open to changing your processes based on data. You guys have implemented Map My Customers, even some like dashboards, reporting, Big Tin Can. You guys love all the analytics you get into both those systems. where do you see your field team or even just Jasper as a whole going in like, the next 5 years? Do you see anything big changing in the industry?
I think we have a lot of, industry specific to us. We have quite a few. We got some good things and some headwinds. Through COVID, you couldn't get new vehicles. Used car values went through the roof. Everyone was fixing everything they had, right? Um, Now you're starting to see interest rates are rising. Things are getting much tighter out there. There's when you drive past a dealership. I mean, a year ago there was 3 vehicles on the lot. Today there's 200. Um, Now on the flip side, the interest rates are so high that no one can afford them anyway. So, but we do have some headwinds like that. So it is going to be interesting the next 5 years. Um, so I think where we're seeing our business shift a little bit towards is we still the majority of our business goes through independent garages, Joe's Automotive. But we're seeing more and more of that business captured by your mid-size to larger fleets, whether they're regional or just a plumbing company that's got 10 trucks, because they can't, again, with these assets being so expensive, and replacing an engine or transmissions cheaper than replacing a whole vehicle. So that is one shift that we're seeing, is just kind of our mix of where our business is coming from is changing a little bit, but you still can't replace face-to-face contact. We're not going to telemarketing. We're not changing the way we've done things for years. Um, so I don't know if that you know who
That's
knows what will
great.
happen in 5 years, but that's kind of where I see it.
That's awesome.
Mary, I have one big final question for Austin, but do you have any
Let's do it.
any additional ones beforehand?
No, that's great.
Okay.
We let you get one in. He's doing good.
Yeah, one more.
This is not good. I have a bad reputation on this episode. Um, okay, so not long ago, what's that? Not long ago, Joe did a recording for us where he actually led a session for additional outside sales leaders, and they kind of did a big Q&A session with him. Um, and he ultimately highlighted that sales hides all sins, and what he meant by that is you could have a mediocre sales rep in a fantastic territory at the right time, and it would appear that that sales rep is just flourishing, like oh man, this guy has a very promising career ahead. So while I level set with that first, my specific question is, how would you coach? Do I dare say old school outside sales leaders that don't use data or don't leverage data? How would you coach or just communicate to them to like get on board with leveraging data? Because like when I look at the outside sales landscape, everybody knows the older generation are they're retiring, right? You don't know what they've done to drive this revenue. So I mean, any coaching for the folks that are like, oh, we don't micromanage our guys and we don't do Big Brother, they're going to wake up with a slap in the face at some point. So if you're sitting around a table and you're having those conversations with outside sales leaders, what advice would you share?
Yeah. So we for a long time did it the way we did it because it's the way we've always done it, right? So we have some similar issues as well. The advantage of what we with MMC, and we've created some great dashboards to show that. I can click, top performer X, and I can see how many customers is he actively calling on, right? And I can see mid-tier performer B, uh, what are they doing? And then my low-level rep, where are they? So um, it lets you probe those. Hey, we've done it this way for 20 years. Okay, let's see. Even if you don't want to quote unquote micromanage, at least it gives you the data to see what are they actively doing? What is the mid-tier actively doing? What's the low tier not doing, most likely? And so you can kind of see, you can use that to see where your true high performers are, and what are they doing differently.
So that actually reminded me, one of the ways that Joe leverages the data is, if you have a low performer that is doing all the right things, perhaps it's just a timing and a territory thing. The talent is there.
Yep.
The motions are there. So taking that rep with those motions and talent and putting it into another territory might be the solve. But in an offline conversation with Joe one time, he said, oftentimes if you're going just by revenue numbers, you might get rid of a really talented rep, not knowing that, man, they were doing everything you needed them to do and more, but you couldn't measure it.
Or did you lose a municipal account or a bid or something? So their sales revenue may look bad, 1 year, because of something that may or may not have been within their control. We look at all that stuff. One thing I do want to give you guys a shout out before we wrap this up. You guys did have one challenge, and I don't know your guys' perspective on this, but one thing we've asked of MMC that's probably been a pain on the backside, that we don't hear about or know, is because we have all these things like frequency, how often we want to see these reps, and the 12-6-4 and a bunch of other stuff. We have a lot of custom fields in your product that weren't standard issue, right? And so because of that, your guys' reporting piece originally we thought was garbage. I mean, no offense.
Look, don't hold back. Will you please be clear?
So what I mean by that is, because you had so many custom fields, it just didn't account for the custom fields. And so, working with Justin, working with Kim, our two account managers, working through them, working through UJT, you guys came back and said, hey, try this. So I love how responsive you guys are to us. You gave us an additional piece on the reporting side, and now we have all the dashboards we could ever think to create and build. And so just wanted to say thank you guys for being so responsive and continuing to add new features and make my life easier. So essentially, we were exporting all that data. I personally was spending hours each month doing this reporting, where now we get it live, and so just want to say thank you for that.
I appreciate the kind words. We love the Jasper partnership, and that is a good note to end on. I would encourage folks that are listening, leverage the data. Without data, you're not making accurate decisions. So, and just to be clear, it is not data just on revenue. It's what leads to revenue that actually provides the true insight. So, Austin, thank you so much for joining us. We're grateful. Excited to continue to watch your career.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.